There exist those mysteries that may never be solved. Unlikely more clues will ever be found. The L8 story contains all the elements of such an enduring mystery of two men that simply vanished. I'm your host Raphael and thanks for watching. This is the series where I tell you a story, its subsequent theories and explanations, and then I let you make up your mind. If you like the weird, the wonderful, the creepy and the mysterious, you might want to subscribe to my channel and click the little bell to receive notifications. Also, if you enjoy this vid, you can like and share. Now let's find out what the ghost blimp mystery is all about. Early one morning on Sunday, August 16, 1942, a US Navy blimp prepared to take off from Treasure Island in San Francisco Bay. The United States had entered World War II only 9 months earlier, and Japanese subs had sunk at least half a dozen Allied ships off the American west coast. As a result, L8 carried two 325-pound Mark 17 depth bombs mounted on an external rack, a 30 caliber machine gun and 300 rounds of ammunition. Its mission: locate and sink any Japanese subs its crew spotted off the San Francisco coast. Cody, the senior aviator of Airship Patrol Squadron 32, would be remembered as a tactician by nature, not one to lose his head under pressure. In fact, his commanding officer considered him one of the most capable pilots and one of the most able officers under his command. Although technically senior to his passenger, Cody was 11 years younger than Ensign Charles Ellis Adams and significantly less experienced. However, he had a fair degree of piloting skill which contributed to his being promoted to lieutenant senior grade. L8, or Love 8 as the craft was also called, was a 46 meter or 150 foot long blimp held aloft by 3,483 cubic meter or 123,000 cubic feet of helium, and had a maximum diameter of 14 meters or 47 feet. It also had a cruising speed of 43 knots, some 80 kilometers per hour. The airship had an excellent reputation and L8 was deemed to be in fine working condition. At 6:03 AM, Love 8 lifted off from the Treasure Island with Cody at the controls. The day was slightly overcast, but visibility was good. At 7:38 AM, an hour and a half into the patrol, he radioed L8's position as 6.5 kilometers or 4 miles east of the Farallones. 4 minutes later, he sent a second message. Am investigating suspicious oil slick. Stand by. When the Liberty ship Albert Gallatin spotted L8's smoke flares, its crew sounded the general alarm and manned its guns, worried that a blimp was about to depth charge an enemy sub pulled in its nets. But no bombs were dropped. Instead, L8 circled the area for more than an hour. Love 8 dropped ballast, rose and headed back towards San Francisco. It was the last time Cody and Adams were ever seen or heard from again. L8 had broadcast its last message at 7:42 before circling the oil slick. After that, Wind Control tried to re-establish radio contact, but this all without success. The next indication of L8's whereabouts came at 10:49 when a Pan American Clipper pilot reported seeing the blimp over the Golden Gate Bridge. He spotted nothing wrong with the ship, which appeared to be under control and heading back to base. At 11, one of the Kingfishers reported seeing L8 almost 5 kilometers or 3 miles west of Salada Beach, rising through the overcast at 610 meters or 2,000 feet. A few minutes later, the blimp began to descend, disappearing in the clouds. The altitude was close to the blimp's pressure height, where its valves would automatically open and vent helium, to prevent its gas cells from bursting. Normally the crewmen would have avoided surpassing pressure height, but for some reason they had apparently ignored this restriction. Next, an Army P-38 pilot spotted the blimp near Mile Rock. He noticed nothing amiss. A few minutes later, Richard Guam, an off-duty seaman, noted that the blimp was bent in the middle. Guam stopped to snap a photograph. His film would soon be confiscated by the authorities. At approximately 11:15 a.m., 5 hours after L8 left Treasure Island, the blimp approached the shore at Ocean Beach in San Francisco, about 1.5 kilometers or a mile south of Fort Funston. A solitary bather noticed the blimp hanging 15 meters or 50 feet offshore, its motors silent. L8's back was sagging noticeably. The blimp touched down briefly on the beach, then moved inland until its gondola hit the side of a hill, packing the starboard engine with dirt and leaves and bending its propellers. The blow also knocked one of the depth charges loose, which rolled downhill before coming to a stop. L8 then rose, cleared the embankment and disappeared from sight. Sunday morning, golfers at San Francisco's exclusive Olympic Club stopped to watch the blimp limp by overhead. 17-year-old C.E. Taylor told the San Francisco Call Bulletin, "I put my binoculars on it and could see figures inside the cabin." By that time, thousands of people were watching the derelict blimp float inland. L8 then descended toward Delhi City, striking the roofs of several homes. At 11:30 a.m., L8 came to rest in the middle of the 400 block of Bellevue Avenue. The blimp's cabin actually nosed into a utility pole, breaking off the crossarm. The force of the collision swung the blimp's tail into the electrical wires, sending a shower of sparks into the ground. Fortunately, L8's fuel supply didn't ignite, but the blimp's envelope was punctured and the airship slid to the ground, tail first, slowly deflating. One of the first people on the scene was William Morris, a volunteer fireman. "It was a miracle she didn't catch fire when he struck those telephone wires," Morris commented. He rushed to aid the blimp's crew as sirens blared and the air filled with escaping helium. He was surprised to find that the door was open and nobody was in the cabin. It was noticed that the door to the cabin was latched open and the microphone was dangling outside the doorway. There was no sign of Cody or Adams. How two naval officers vanished from one of the most heavily trafficked areas between San Francisco and the Farallon Islands, while their blimp was being tracked by ships, planes, and not to mention people on the ground, remains an enduring mystery until today. An inspection soon revealed that all 3 of L8's parachutes were still on board, along with its single life raft. 2 of the blimp's 5 smoke bombs were missing, but those were accounted for because of the crew had used them to mark the oil slick. A briefcase containing classified material was found behind the pilot's seat. L8's engines were in perfect working order. The ignition switches were on and the blimp's instruments and flight controls operated normally, with 4 hours of gas remaining in the fuel tanks. 2 of the 3 life jackets carried on board were missing, but regulations required Cody and Ensign Adams to wear life jackets while patrolling over water. The only thing slightly strange was that the blimp's batteries were drained and part of its fuel supply had been dumped. The US Navy immediately launched an extensive search for the 2 missing men for the next 3 days, but despite calm seas and good visibility, there was still no sign of Cody and Adams, and they were officially listed as missing in action. Some assumed both the pilot and the ensign had simply fallen out of the vessel, though it would have been nearly impossible to do so, with both crew members leaving the cabin of the ship while it was still airborne. Another theory suggests that the two men, in the course of investigating this oil slick, lowered their blimp enough to be taken prisoner by the crew of the U-boat or Japanese vessel. Some say they were spying for Japan and rendezvoused with an I-boat to escape. There is the possibility of a stowaway who overpowered the two men and then somehow vanished as well. Could one crewman have murdered the other over a woman, dumped his body, then fell overboard himself, or even dived into the ocean to escape? Could a rogue wave have swept both men away, or could L8 have dipped into the water, washing them away? But of course, the one you have been waiting for is the more out there theory. The perennial favorite is that Cody and Adams were abducted by aliens. Why do all the mysteries have to contain these buggers? So what really happened to the two-man crew of the L8? Did they fall out of their blimp, or did a more nefarious fate befall them? You decide! There is a lot more to say about this topic than I did in this small vid, so if I forgot something or you have something to add, don't hesitate to do so. If you wish to do your own research, the links in the description might be a good start. Your thoughts and opinions are much appreciated, so drop a line in the box below. Just be respectful in the comments, as there are real people with real feelings on the other side, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!